We're here.
No, you're good. You're good. So let's give them an introduction. Tell us who you are and what do you do?
Sure. So, hi everyone. I'm Charis Dorsey. I am the founder of the Dorsey Firm. I operate a small business law firm based here in Atlanta, Georgia. I would like to think of us as a one-stop shop for your business legal needs. So, from setting up the business to closing it out, acquiring assets, figuring out how to protect those assets, and possibly transition those assets into um, property that is owned by the company. We assist with that, contract matters, business disputes, and then my favorite, trademarks and copyright law. We help
Yes.
with that aspect as well.
I think everybody had a lot of questions in regards to trademarks and copyrights.
Right.
But it's really funny how, we are getting into a time, especially with social media,
Mm-hmm.
in regards to how we're not thinking about even protecting things that we put on Facebook and Twitter, like our quotes and,
Mm-hmm.
things of that sort. So that was one of the questions that I did have was, how do you go about protecting your thoughts? When you just get on Facebook and you come up with something pure genius. I mean, we see so many things being reposted and things go viral so fast, like it's above me now. Like that
Yeah.
was something that took off really, really fast, and for him to have to, try to run and jump and take a trademark, so what's the process for that?
So generally speaking, you have the most common, you have three options for protecting your what we call it intellectual property.
Okay.
So the top three, the big three: trademarks, copyright, and then you have, of course, patents.
Right.
So patents create. I'll just start with the one that people talk about, but not as much.
Right.
So patents pretty much protect your invention. So generally speaking, you're going to go into one of a few pockets or buckets. So you have the utility patent. So you're creating something that is useful for someone else.
Okay.
So like maybe it's before the iPhone switched up, the home button had a utility patent.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and there, the iPhone itself probably has at least a few hundred patents built into it for the different piece mechanics that are inside of the phone that help it to
Right.
function. So
See, I just thought the iPhone was patent. Okay.
yeah, so the functionality of the phone itself, and then the different apparatuses and systems that are inside of it. And some of it may go into coding, which is a whole nother conversation with copyright. But
Right.
but it all functions together, and basically the question is, are you creating something that will be useful for another? So at one point,
Right.
a wheelbarrow may have been eligible for a patent or something to that effect.
Right.
On the other side of that, you have design patents, which are more so for protecting the look of something. So I always tell myself, whoever will joke about the peplum top, like once upon a time, well, I guess you still
Mhm.
see it, but the peplum top was like, super trendy, super unique. It didn't not necessarily fit within any of the other umbrellas, but you were trying to protect the look of something, the design piece.
Right.
And that would have been a great opportunity for someone to have captured the creator to have captured that within a design patent, because it is protecting
Wow.
the ornamental aspects, so the look of it.
Right.
And so you have the utility patents, where it's creating something that's more or less useful, has some utility in the grand scheme. You have the design patent, which is basically protecting the look, or in the legal world, the ornamental aspects of something. And then you have plant patents, which are becoming more popular now in the space of cannabis being a thing, and the various strains. So you have like perp and all that,
Right.
so when you come up with those unique strains, don't judge
I know
me.
what you mean.
But yeah, um, so you
Blue Dotty, you got all the street names. Yes, so they're getting patents to that. I didn't even think about plant
mhm,
based. So it has its own trademark. So if I did come up with my own strain, I could get a trademark for that.
patent.
I'll
So
get a patent for that. Okay, for the
yep.
formula.
So that's the umbrella. Just that's like a quick 2-second crash course on the patent side. Then you have copyright.
Okay.
Copyright is generally going to protect the written pieces, your creations, such as like your drawings, the pictures that you take, the blog and content that you create, books that you create, like the copy within it, so the written material within it, um, videos, choreography. So copyright is.
You can copyright dance moves.
Mhm.
Okay.
You have, yep. So they protect choreography. I've seen it so much so that even like fitness gurus are now coming out with like fitness videos, and they'll record, the video itself. Aside from disclaiming the music, or maybe they'll record it silent. I'm in silence, but they're recording the video, the actual movement and the routine itself, for protection. So yeah, Alvin Ailey, the moves that were created through his academy.
Right.
Choreography is eligible for protection with the copyright, but the key to it is it must transfer from brain to some tangible medium
Right.
of expression, so that can be so where someone else can then encounter it or perceive it. So that may be by way of it being recorded, or by way of it being in a picture, or you writing it down, sending it in an email, something so that someone else can then view it, and then at that point you birth your copyright, if you will, and your copyright your copyrights are birthed through that creation when you transfer it from mind to that tangible medium that someone else can then encounter.
That's a good to know. I really didn't know about the choreography, so that was good to know. Okay, so you can do a copyright for that. Okay.
And then the bigger one, that the most popular that people hear about or are talking about now, is trademarks.
Okay.
So trademarks basically answers the question of who it belongs to.
Right.
And so it's associated with, generally speaking, goods or services. So with trademarks, you're able to protect, the name, the names, the logo. Um, you're able to protect your catchphrases, your personal name, things of that nature. And then there's a cousin to trademarks so trademark law is based on this bigger piece, and I don't want to get into too much legalese, but it's called the Lanham Act. And under the Lanham Act, it also protects trade dress. So like when you go into like a Apple store, and the layout is always the same as uniform throughout, no matter which store you go to, that would technically be considered trade dress. The shape of the Coca-Cola bottle. And then going back to trademarks, you have like colors that you can also protect. So like that Tiffany blue, that's your staple. So you're able to protect that. You're able to protect jingles or sounds, chimes. So the iPhone ringer, the Droid ringer, the T-Mobile ringtone. That's trademark protection as well.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
That's actually something good. I think as entrepreneurs, we're always coming up with things that make our businesses unique. So just thinking about the layouts and designs of things, the outline of things can be trade dressed. Okay, I need to write that down.
And you have that as well with design patents, which is something that people don't often consider as well. So that's another place where the look can you can kind of get into a space of protecting the look of something,
Right.
Which is extremely important for like when I encounter like fashion designers, and they always want to protect, and it sucks at this moment that there aren't enough protections. Like you can protect the pattern of, like, let's say you created a unique pattern with Ankara print or something to that effect.
Right.
You're able to protect that pattern, but maybe not the actual design of the shirt or the design of the piece, generally speaking. So sometimes when clients are trying to see how they can protect themselves, the suggestion may be, hey, take that pattern that you created, or that fabric, the pattern that will be printed onto the fabric, take that and register that with the Copyright Office.
Right.
Or if or create something unique, like if you're creating like the Hermes bag or something like that, the shape of that design pattern, or like at one point, the tufted portion of the Chanel bag, trade dress and or design patent. So
Okay, so about what's the price difference, like a range between getting a trade dress and a design patent?
So with patents, it's a unique process. On one end, you have the filing fee, but there's another aspect with that that will be comprised of actually writing out the drawing, creating the drawing, if you will,
Right.
where that the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office understands what it is exactly that you're trying to create. So that piece, the writing itself, can run you upwards. It is a bit more expensive, and it is an investment. So, generally speaking, and without giving legal advice, I would only encourage a client to do that for something that is, they're seeking to have as a staple item, like the Chanel bag. Even though it's been around, they still have that classic bag, and for the most part, their design is based around that.
The front of it.
Yeah.
So they had to create that so that way the patent office can understand what's so unique about it and why you need a patent for that. Got
Yep.
it.
and like with trade dress, the average cost of registration is about upwards of $600, and then trademarks, the range is between 225 and 400, but they're making some modifications right now with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, where they are trying to basically eliminate the paper applications, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that. But that would be the 400. That is what is associated with that $400 rate. So 225 and 275 are, generally speaking, the application
yourself.
Or if you're hiring an attorney, that's just the filing fee. That's not the actual trademark search, which I highly encourage clients to do.
Yep.
And actually submitting it and preparing an application on your behalf.
I would say to piggyback on that, because I applied for the Ask Me What I Do trademark 2 Decembers ago. And there was a young lady that filed for the trademark, the Ask Me What I Do trademark, in that following April. So, of course, I am one that I'm big on protecting my intellectual property. So I'm always researching, but I worked with an attorney to do the search and just make sure, I had everything. And so anyway, long story short, I found her on social media, and then I found her on the trademark office trying to file for the trademark for my Ask Me What I Do. And so she found the hard way because she filed herself. She didn't use a search. She didn't find out that the Ask Me What I Do had already been submitted for, to be filed. So to be registered. So I strongly recommend that to anybody because, fortunately I was on the other side of that.
Right.
But, to what you say, like I'm a full blown example of pay somebody and call
pay for it. Yeah, absolutely. And it's important too. Like, and people think, like, especially in the space where you're really like social media influencers starting to, be on the rise. Your name transitions is like it surpasses just being on social media anymore. Like B Simone, example of, where her name now is like, it was just, we're referring to her at this point by her Instagram handle.
Right. That's
and,
it.
And then when you're thinking about that, it's like, okay, when your brand is trying, starting to, elevate at that level, like, how do you protect it and ensure that no one else is coming up behind you? I've seen situations happen at this point, and it's getting really nasty with social media, because a lot of people are starting to make money by way of social media. Even there, so much so where I've seen clients have to go through a process where someone may have filed for the trademark for their particular brand name, and then did a takedown notice with like Facebook or Instagram, and then had either took over the account, had the account shut down, or snatched the handle from them.
Yep, I'm working on that too right now.
Yeah, so trademark especially is important, as well copyright. So those images, I've seen clients, especially those in like the hair bloggers, where companies like, and the name is slipping my mind right now, but companies overseas are taking
Alibaba and AliExpress.
AliExpress, Alibaba, all of that. They're taking their images and using it to market their
I had it
products.
happen to one of my good friends. They took
Mm-hmm.
one of her pictures and they were advertising it on Amazon.
Yep.
It was a picture of her.
Mm-hmm.
She did them, and they posted it. Yep.
And so, registering, your copyright. So registering those images, when you take your photo shoot, spending the extra, taking the time, hiring an attorney, or if you are get familiar enough with the process to do it yourself, so be it. But to file, in bulk your images just
Right.
with the Copyright Office, because when you register it with the Copyright Office, it gives you a right to enforce your rights under the federal copyright law,
Right.
against those who may come after you trying to infringe on your rights. So taking your images and using them, you have a right to that. At the point in which you take that picture, you have a right to that.
That's
So
good.
mhm.
That's some good tea, girl. That's good information because I don't think people think about the pictures that they take of their work and copywriting, because copywriting is inexpensive in a sense. I'm not sure how much it costs for bulk, but between
Mhm.
$30 to $50 for filing with a copyright,
Yep.
just sending it over.
Mhm. And
There's
then
a difference between copyright and trademark. Yes, we covered it.
mhm.
I have to watch the replay. The replay play is only available for 24 hours. So you guys make sure that you catch that. So we're gonna move right from that and talk about there was somebody that asked a question in regards to business license.
Mhm.
Just talking about the process. Okay, so the question has always been to me when I get with a lot of clients, do I need a business license? If I need one, why do I need it?
Okay. So, in order for me to answer that, I have to dissect it.
Okay.
So, because a lot of times people say business license and they are thinking that they're speaking to the formation of a business entity, and it's when it's really what the state or the local jurisdiction. So, depending on what city you are in or county, they consider that to be an occupational tax.
Right.
So, the business registration with the Secretary of State. So in
Mm-hmm.
Georgia, we have a Secretary of State, and there's the Corporations Division, and they manage the creation of and the transactions between, not the transactions between, but they manage the records for all of the businesses that are established in the state of Georgia, so far as making sure that they are honoring the liability protections that they're supposed to, or the limited liability protections that they're supposed to receive.
Right.
So in general, there's a sole proprietor. So if I just wake up tomorrow and I decide that I want to sell 30 bottles of water at the, well, season's basically over, but at a Falcons game, if I decide to sell, bottles,
Sorry.
bottles,
I'm trying to get to the comments, but it keep hold on one second.
30 bottles of water at the, well, season basically over, but it's Falcons game. I think there's like
Sorry, y'all.
is it working
I'm
now?
trying to get to the comments so I can respond to y'all while she's talking to. I'm ready now. I'm sorry. Go
Okay,
ahead.
no, you're fine. So if I were to, decide, wake up today and decide I want to go sell bottles of water on the corner,
Mm-hmm.
technically I'm a sole proprietor at that point. There has been an exchange, and they would consider that us engaging in commerce. So I've exchanged this, I received money, I'm a sole proprietor. I take that money, I deposit it into my bank account. There's also the general partnership, which would be basically the same thing, but one or more individuals conducting business for that common purpose without actually taking a formal step to register it with the state.
Right.
You have your LLPs, which you see that more so with more like professional services more than anything, like attorneys, and it's where you're all coming together. And you're saying I want to do business under one practice, but I don't necessarily want all of the liability that you may take on. So,
What about realtors?
realtors sometimes will use that as well.
Okay.
And so it's, so if there's a malpractice or something to that effect, one may not be taking on the liability of the other. So it's
Right.
Then you have LLCs. So generally speaking, an LLP, an LLC, corporation, both for-profit and nonprofit corporations, are registered with the Secretary of State.
Okay.
So the LLC is given this limited liability of protection. So I would consider it to be a hybrid between a sole proprietorship and a corporation from the standpoint of the liability piece, but the functionality. So on the liability side, you're getting this shield of protection between yourself personally and the transactions that you conduct personally and your business activity.
Okay.
So let's say I worked a 9 to 5 for Coca-Cola. My money that I earn from my 9 to 5 Coca-Cola is my money.
Right.
But as a sole proprietor, if I am sued, the money that I've earned from that business transaction of selling the water on the street, and the money that I've earned through Coca-Cola are both up for grabs.
Right.
So, but if I am an LLC, if I create an LLC for selling that water, then the conversation is the money that I earned from Coca-Cola is my money. The money that I've earned from selling the water is the money that belongs to the LLC until and if I pay myself from the LLC to myself, that part belongs to me. But
Right.
ultimately, the income that comes into that LLC is created this barrier, if you will.
Right.
So if someone were to sue me for selling them a bad water, the money that they're able to take, or what the money that's up for grabs, is the money that is earned solely from the LLC, unless I did something like commingle funds. So I kept one bank account, even though I created this LLC. I kept one bank account and I deposited the money I received from Coca-Cola in with the money that I received from selling water. Then they're all together. The state's going to look at it. The judge is going to look at it as you created this LLC, but you really haven't made any type of transition to or created any real separation. So all that money is still up for grabs.
Right.
So it's
Woo.
important. Yeah. So it's important that you separate, keep that line of separation between the two of you, your business and then yourself. So yeah, so that's an LLC.
This is good. Like I already know 5 people that should have been on this live listening to what you said, because that right there, and it's funny because the question that we have is, I have an LLC, but it serves as an umbrella for my business that makes money at the moment. My bank name is under the LLC, but the money I make from my brand isn't an LLC.
Mm-hmm.
Does
So so that can go one of two ways. It sounds to me like that may be a situation, and I don't know all of the details. So I don't want you taking whatever I'm saying right now as legal advice and running with that,
right.
because it's case by case, and I would need big picture. But it may be a situation in which, like for example, the Dorsey Firm is my law firm,
Mm-hmm.
but oftentimes I've created this nickname for my business, if you will,
Right.
called Chat with Charis. So when I'm speaking, it's Chat with Charis.
Right.
And so if somebody says, "Hey, I want to come and book you with Chat with Charis. I want you to talk about legal topics," I can say sure. And I can I have my LLC, the Dorsey Firm, but I've registered a DBA, which is a doing business as this nickname, so that the state recognizes that Chat with Chairs is associated with the Dorsey Firm.
Right.
So a DBA may be an option there. Otherwise, it may be that you have, more than likely, they're going to look at it as you have an LLC and you have a sole proprietorship under the name that you're doing business as. And so what happens is, if you're depositing the money into that account, it's like another version of commingling. It's basically commingling, and in this perspective of, you have the sole proprietor depositing money into this LLC account, but they're not necessarily related. So you have to create that association with the state.
So let me ask you this with that. That's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just use me for instance. I do a speaking engagement. They write the check to Natasha Hall, but I but I deposited into my operating company's account because that was a business transaction.
Mm-hmm.
So would that be considered commingling, or would I need to make a DBA or do I just take the money and put it in my own account?
For that, it would depend. So if the one or two ways that can be handled or fixed is you can put the money into your own account, or just for the sake of confusion, just have them pay on behalf of the LLC. But that would be the easiest way to do it without having the confusion, because then you're getting into a conversation of, okay, well, they paid on behalf of Natasha Hall. She has a DBA as Natasha Hall, you know, and then it's like, okay, but is this considered commingling? Is it not? And that's the situation where it just serves you better to just create some clear.
I can think of 10 people right now that right there would, thank God it's a new year, because
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll get y'all the books right.
So yeah, and
First today.
it's some I've seen some very unique things happen. So the name of the game is, if you're in the place of doing business, um the name of the game is keeping it away from, keeping yourself out of it. Basically, you're in it, you're owning it, you run it, but you're not necessarily putting yourself in the business where the business
Right.
becomes you, from the standpoint of taking on liability. And that goes even with like contracts too. One of the things that I've even said that I'm just going to do is like a checkup for 2020, just because a lot of times clients have, done, and it's nothing wrong with DIY. It's nothing wrong with DIY when you've done it correctly.
Right.
But a lot of times they do the DIY and it's partially done.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've created the LLC, but they're not operating properly. They have contracts, but all of the contracts are, in their name. But
Right.
instead of it being so it would be, instead of it being Charis Dorsey on behalf of the Dorsey Firm, it may be just Charis Dorsey, which is
Right.
problematic because you're still therefore putting yourself personally on the hook. So if you entered into a contract with a vendor for, I don't know, hair,
Right.
and the contract says that they're going to supply you this much hair, you're going to pay, I don't know, $3,000 every week for the supply of hair.
Right.
One day you're short, you can't catch back up, the company sues, but the company sues, but who they list as the party, the defendant, would be you by name, and you're like, hold up, no, this is supposed to be my company, but they technically have the right to pursue it against you.
Oh, that's good. This
So
good. I
yeah,
hope y'all are learning something. Please let me know in the comments. I see some thank gods, and this is so good. And you broke this down good.
oh, good.
See somebody asking for your contact information. They need to book you right now. Give them your contact
Yeah.
information too while we on that part.
Sure. So I'm the DorseyFirm.com, and follow me on Instagram as well. I'll drop a lot of gems on Instagram at the Dorsey Firm. So so like that's my whole thing, is just like making it simple enough so that you understand like your rights and how you should be using the law to protect yourself. And yeah, I can go on and on for days on the
This
things
is the last one that I have for you.
Mhm.
So there are a lot of people that are starting, I guess I'm gonna say, a side hustle. I'm one a lot. Everybody knows when they talk to me, I'm really big on letting them understand, if you do not have a business registration, you do not have a business. I will not let you walk around me saying that you have a business when you have not completed out the paperwork to make it happen. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna say this: there are a lot of people starting a side hustle in which the entrepreneur should have a license.
Mhm.
So I know people that are starting, like, cooking at their own house and selling plates, and
Mhm.
they're doing lashes, and they're doing all this stuff, and they do not have a license, or they are not registered with the state.
Mhm.
Is that illegal? What parameters would you say, or what things do you think they need in place?
So it will vary depending on the industry. For example, I do see a lot of people selling like the plates and things like that, and many people aren't familiar with the Georgia Food Act.
Okay. Oh,
Um,
Lord.
yeah, there's like the Georgia Food Act. Um, and there's like the cottage food program. So like for those who are like, I'm not quite ready for a commercial kitchen or something to that effect, there's always the Cottage Food Act, which will allow you to operate from your home, and for more so the situations where there's a direct sale to the consumer. So if you're selling those hot plates and things of that nature, so you just need to mainly make sure that you're in compliance and check with the local planning and zoning agency within your jurisdiction, to ensure that you're in compliance. That also goes to the piece with the business license. Um,
Mhm.
so that difference between the corporation or the forming your registering your business with the Secretary of State and obtaining a business license. When you go through the process of obtaining that business license, there may be many a different, before you can obtain that license, the local jurisdiction is going to push you through to ensure that you have the necessary permits, the necessary licenses from the corresponding um, agencies that are going to basically give you that stamp of approval to say that you're good and you're clear to do business. So a lot of people don't, they do the registration with the state, but they miss that entire part, and find themselves being penalized, having their businesses shut down, accounts closed out because of that. So
And that's with registering with your county.
so
Local.
it's going to depend. So it's going to depend on where you're located.
Mm-hmm.
So it may be at the city level. So like, I'm in Cobb, but Smyrna may have its own, business license,
Right.
like their clerk for the city who will
They do.
handle it. City of Atlanta handles theirs.
Right.
The cab, they have it. It's a unique situation with the cab because um, some parts are unincorporated. Gwinnett, they have it in a unique way. Some parts are unincorporated, so it's just depending on who you'll refer to. But either way, normally there's some resources online, or you can reach out to me or another competent attorney to, go through that process of getting your licensing. And that part can really be challenging for some, like that part, like you start the business, but going through that process, depending on what you're offering to market, can really, get kind of complicated. So, because I have like one client now who is starting a business, and trying to get the liquor license, but in a rural town, it's been very
Right.
challenging because
No. You
yeah, and they're sending
know,
us
we
back
have
and forth. They don't have any online forms. You have to drive down there. So I'm driving 2 hours sometimes to go and show up in person because they playing,
right.
they ain't responsive. So you just know that you have, that is a factor. But yeah, to your point, more or less, you are hitting the nail on the head. You may have that LLC, but you may not, be technically in compliance with your business.
So this is a good one. Because yeah, we talked about this. It says, do you have to register an LLC in the county, state in which you live? It doesn't, but you can answer that.
So generally, so for the standpoint of registering the LLC, it isn't mandatory that you register your business within the state that you are conducting business. Let me clear this up. It's going to depend. Sometimes clients will choose to, excuse me, sometimes clients will choose to form the business in a state that has more favorable laws to their business industry. For example, a lot of times clients will choose to, especially those like in the finance industry, in finance, will choose to form in Delaware, because Delaware has a court that is established, and well equipped and well trained on handling business disputes. So if there's ever a business dispute, they'll have their case heard in Delaware before their courts, for the standpoint of making sure that a favorable outcome is being had. sometimes, like Georgia recently, I think maybe 2 years ago, we had to vote on the creation of a business court. And I feel like it was for Fulton County. Don't quote me on that part, but
Okay.
they're creating, specific panels who are equipped and knowledgeable on some of the nuances that happen within business law, so that they can handle them better. So, like I said, it's not necessarily mandatory, but sometimes clients will choose based on the favorable laws of that industry or that region as well. Sometimes they'll choose it for the tax considerations. But if you're going to be doing a substantive amount of your business in Georgia, then generally, even if your home base is like in Delaware, you may still do like a foreign LLC or a foreign corporation, registering it with the Secretary of State. So still let them know that you're here. Or,
Right.
mm-hmm.
That's good. I did, and I could probably answer this, and it just says, as far as phrases for shirts, do
Mm-hmm.
they have to be individually trademarked or copyright?
So, okay, with trademarks, so the way that this is a kind of loaded question. So, and
Right.
it doesn't seem like it would be, but it kind of is. So, with trademark isn't going to protect it's not going to protect the words as it is used as a design on the shirt. Generally speaking, it'll protect the catchphrase, so own you can register it. Like if you're using like let's say you're in the entertainment business and primarily around racing. I don't know, this just recently came up for me, so I'm gonna use that. So you do like racing, like go-kart racing, whatever the case may be. So you register a catchphrase for as it pertains to that particular industry. You decide to put it on the shirt, so be it, whatever the case may be, but that's how you're using it. But with trademarks, you're getting the trademark based on a particular class, or basically based on a particular category. So for if you're using it and you want to use it specifically as it relates to apparel, what they're going to look for is that it's more than just being used for ornamental purposes. So just for you to post plaster across the front of the shirt. They're going to want to see either a hang tag or the name, like just how you have like Gildan printed into the tags of a shirt. They're going to want to see that catchphrase and printed into the tag of the shirt, or on the hang tag. So normally when you snatch off that little tag, they're going to want to see that to show that you're using the name as a brand, more or less just put plastering onto a shirt.
Exactly.
And then the interesting piece with that is, you know, it's sometimes hard to, and it can become sometimes expensive to register a shirt, or register that little phrase on the shirt if you're not going to, use it in that way. And copyright won't necessarily protect you, um, depending on, unless you have some kind of unique design component associated with it, because copyright is generally not going to protect short phrases, unless it's a part of a bigger body of work. So like it'll protect a short phrase, like a line from a song. It'll protect that, or like a famous line from a movie or a famous line from a book.
Right.
So that's the piece there for that. I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, because like you said, I mean, and that's why I said I can answer it later on, because it's something that will need to be broken down, because that was one of the things when I went to file my trademark or asked me what I do, they asked me for the hang tags, and I'm like, well, my business name is my networking apparel, but my slogan there, like, nah, sis, like, is what's the
The
brand?
brand, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so
like how you, so Rockaware can do, I don't know where Rockaware just came from, but throwback. Rockaware on the shirt, but Rockaware is also on that tag, and it's on that hang. Same for, like some of the other popular brands like God is Dope,
right,
it's got a tag for it, been broke before, things that, like brands like that, where you see it constantly plastering the same messaging. More than likely it's either in the tag or on the hang tag, so
right,
it's conveying that it's more than just a graphic tee, if you will.
right.
It's shifting over into an actual apparel brand.
Right. Because what I also had to learn is once I registered it as an apparel, I had to go back and register it in the other classes because people still can use ask me what I do in all those other parameters. That was the hard, that made me cry. Like, what you mean they can still use it? Like, it says you got to get it in all, get it in every class. You have to register it in every class. So,
Yep. And
yeah,
it's the same way. And just to give more context to what that looks like, it's the same way that you can have Pandora for like the charm bracelets and Pandora for live music, for not live music, but music streaming services.
right.
They're both able to coexist, having a trademark because they're in two different categories.
Right.
So the name of the game with trademarks is making sure that you're getting it in the areas and preparing your application in such a way that allows for you to claim the things that you are in currently, and phrasing it in such a way that the trademark officer or examiner can then see potential areas for growth. So I've had a situation where a client was providing hair care services, and not necessarily anything else, just the services, but other people have tried to apply for trademarks and were blocked from getting their application through for things like hair care products or a hair care academy, because what they're going to do is they're going to look at your application and give you some room to grow. So give you room for the places in which you would seek to expand in, and kind of give you that space to do so.
Right.
So yeah, it's important that you choose wisely and choose accurately, the classes that you're going to claim with the USPTO.
Right. That's dope. Well, I truly appreciate you. I know I said 15 to 30 minutes, but it's like
No, it's fine.
I hope we picked your brain more than enough. Go ahead and tell them again your socials, your website, all that good stuff. I'm sure all of them now need an attorney.
So my Instagram is at the Dorsey Firm. Nothing fancy. TheDorseyFirm. My website is also thedorseyfirm.com. My email is cdorsey, so C as in cat, Dorsey at thedorseyfirm.com. And I can also be reached by phone at 404-382-8832. If you ever have a question, just let me know. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook. It's also the Dorsey Firm. Try to keep it simple. So everything is the Dorsey Firm. But yeah, I look forward to connecting with y'all more in the future. And if you have any questions or want me to cover a particular topic more in detail, I'm happy to do so. But yeah, thank you.
Yes, I'm putting all your information in the comments so everybody can see it. So yeah, that's it, y'all. I'm super excited about my Mentee II Bawse jumping off. I started the pilot last 2 Octobers ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had 9 mentees that I started out with, and it was really difficult for me to balance them all. So after they pretty much graduated their 6-month program, I took the complete year to figure out what did I want to do. So I wanted to start a community because we're all mentees. Like I have a mentor for my HR background. I have a mentor for my entrepreneurship. Like I've been with so many mentors. Like we're gonna all be mentees in life. So I wanted to create a platform for entrepreneurs, regardless if you're a starterpreneur or a vet. Like we can all coexist. We can all try to figure this thing out together, because like these questions that they ask is something that myself, like it comes easy because I know how to do this. Like everything you said tonight, I'm like, yeah, I know that. Like I can answer that's not my lane. So I just wanted, and I'm also looking for mentors, that there are, people that are looking to get into your industry that would like to be able to, talk to you once a month. So we do have Mentee meetups, Bawse meetups. So that's quarterly. So we get together every quarter, and basically we'll have a panel. It's just super dope. Like the focus that I have around this platform, and I'm in the actual process of turning it into a nonprofit, so that way I can start getting funding for these starterpreneurs. Because imagine when we were starting our businesses and somebody gave us $2,500, like
What do
I
you do
could
with
use that. So that's what I'm focused on right
Right.
now, is trying to, help them out with getting their startup funds and then teaching them the right way of getting their businesses started. So I'm just super excited and so thankful for you supporting my cause.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for thinking of me. Like, I
Yes.
so if you need me, let me know. I also have a nonprofit, so I can,
Yes.
so it's just like, yeah, it's a process,
I heard.
especially with getting that fundraising, like doing that fundraising in those first startup years. So yeah, any way that I can be a resource, just let me know.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Y'all have a great night. Thank y'all so much. And I'll be checking in with y'all tomorrow. Like I said, the replay is only available for 24 hours. So check it out, download it, whatever you got to do, because it's going to be gone. Then I'm going to put it in my own little archive. So thank you so much. Y'all have a good night.
Good night.